friends, it's Jen Peer, and I'd like to welcome you once again to my kitchen here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's week 4, and that means desserts. And I think a lot of times we're so anxious to make something sweet and gooey for the people we love because it tastes good, and that's really what desserts are all about. But I think desserts can also be about being somewhat healthy. And on that note, I decided to make a dessert with squash. That's right, I said it, squash. Maybe if it were named something different like heffin', everybody would be interested in putting it in a dessert and eating it all the time. But to tell you the truth, squash is really healthy for you. It's rich in antioxidants, it's rich in potassium, it's high in fiber, so it provides a really good base for like a custard or a pie. And in this case, we're gonna make squash blossoms. We're gonna make a squash custard, and in the center of the squash custard, we're gonna put my original creation called Cramazing, which will feature our Philadelphia cream cheese. So let's get together, let's get cooking, and make our squash blossoms. First step we have is to make our Cramazing, which is the center of our squash blossom. In this pot, I have a full stick of butter, a full 8 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese, a teaspoon of lemon extract, and 1 egg white, and 3 cups of marshmallows. You are going to want to keep it on kind of a medium-low setting and keep stirring it until it makes a nice goopy mess. And once it's all done and everything's melted, we're going to pour it into our little bag here, and we're going to stick that in the fridge so it can be ready for us when we need it to make our squash blossoms. Our Cramazing is in the fridge, and our next step is to make our crust. The dough is very simple. All you're going to need is a 1.5 cups of flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, a stick of butter, and 3 ounces of your Philadelphia cream cheese. And there's really no secret to making this crust. You're just going to stick everything in there and make sure that your cream cheese and your butter are, of course, at room temperature. I'm going to pop it all in there. Boom, boom. And then we're just going to get in there with our hands and start working. I needed my dough. I needed the dough. It's ready to go. And I have all of them rolled into little balls here in the mini muffin pan. And it's not greased. You don't have to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and finish the last 2 here. You're going to want to make them comparable to the size of your muffin pan. So if you're using a larger muffin pan, you'll want your little balls here to be larger, and if it's a smaller mini muffin pan, you want them to be about the size of a walnut. So I'm going to roll this last little guy up and just set it in the center. And then next what you're going to do is, it's all about this little thumb here. You're going to take your thumb and press, one on each side, and then just bring up your edges. So press, and then bring up your edges. And this is going to form a perfect little crust for our squash custard, which we'll be ready to make next. You're going to be amazed at how easy this squash custard is to make. You're just going to take 2 cups of squash that I've steamed in one of those microwave steaming bags for 5 minutes. And I have 2 eggs, a cup of whole Greek yogurt plain, and I have a teaspoon of vanilla and 3/4 cup of brown sugar. And I have 2 juices here. I have an orange juice and a pineapple juice. Now the cool thing about this recipe is, in the fall and winter, if you want to change this up and make your juices, say an apple juice and a pomegranate juice, then you've made a recipe that's perfect for those colder days. But in this case, it's summertime, so we're going to keep it nice and light and fresh. So I'm going to put in my blender here my squash that's ready to go, my eggs, vanilla, our Greek yogurt, have a big mess everywhere in my kitchen. And I'm going to set this on a puree setting and just let it go for about 2 minutes. Our squash custard is out of the blender, and you can see I've filled my unbaked crust dough. And my measurement here is about a tablespoon, but you'll really want to, measure that according to what size you're using for your cups. And just slightly over half, because the next step is to fill these cups in the center with our Philadelphia Cream Cheese Cramazing. Don't leave the cramazing in the refrigerator for more than about 5 minutes or it'll get hard on you. You just want to put it in the fridge long enough so that it's not hot in the bag. And you're going to take your little bag here and pipe your cramazing into the center. And when you feel like you have enough in there, you just dollop like that. That'll stop it from coming out. And when this heats in the oven, all of this beautiful cream cheese cramazing will melt across your squash blossoms and it'll look beautiful. Our next step is to put the center into our squash blossoms, and then we'll be ready for the center to our squash blossoms. And you can try putting some flax seeds in the middle. That's really interesting. But in the end, the poppy seeds went out. So the technique I'm using for putting the poppy seeds in the middle of my squash blossoms is just to take a little bit of the poppy seeds in a straw and drop them right into the bottom, right into the center. Our adorable little blossoms are ready to go in the oven in a preheated 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to make some little holders for our squash blossoms, and they're really easy to make and not that expensive. So you're going to take a couple of pieces of tissue paper. I have here maybe about 7 pieces, and I'm going to cut them in sort of a random kind of organic shape. No rhyme or reason, just sort of cutting wherever my scissors go, like so. Then I'm going to take my little shapes here, cross them over, and then upside down, going to mold them onto just a regular old shot glass, like so. I'm going to take my little squash blossom here out of the pan and pop it right into its little cup. And that's that. So I'd like to thank you for once again coming back to my kitchen, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for coming. Bye.